great to be here today. I really love this place. This is our spiritual house. Like we say in Portuguese, we say Casa Espírita. So that's it. This is our spiritual house. I feel like I am at home here with people that I like so much. So it's really a pleasure for me to be here today. And I want to thank you all. And I'm gonna talk about benevolence tonight. So this is gonna be the topic tonight. So when we go through the Gospel according to Spiritism, we'll see it on chapter 9 that there is a passage about benevolence. It's by the spirit Lazarus, and he'll tell us that benevolence towards our fellow human beings is the result of love. So it's written there that benevolence is the fruit of love. And it can be expressed with kindness and warmth. That's what he says. So, and then he goes on saying, however, let's not trust the appearances. So then he'll talk about appearances. And then he says that sometimes education and worldly experience, politeness, can very much look like benevolence, but it may be not. So he asks us to pay attention when it comes to appearances. So, and then he goes on saying that sometimes people who seem to be benevolent or kind may be wearing masks. That's the word that he uses in the gospel. That they may be just covering what is really inside, their hearts. Which means that what they're really showing is not congruent with their hearts. So when he would say, people who have smile on their faces and poison in their hearts. And then he goes on saying, they appear to be mild and calm and benevolent until you upset them, and provoke them just a little bit and they will bite. So that's how he says in the gospel. So I was thinking about the Dalai Lama. So that is a remarkable man, and for me he's an example of benevolence, like they explain here. He has been involved in this political struggle for so many years, advocating for the welfare of Tibetans. And at any time, he stopped being loving, benevolent, calm, and compassionate. He has been making his protest. He has been, spreading his message. He has been making his voice heard in a benevolent way, in a loving way, in a very kind way. He's a great example for me, because sometimes I think, and I think other people may think too, that if I am too kind, too benevolent, I may not be respected. That's a mistaken belief that we have sometimes. Like, okay, I cannot be so kind, people will not really listen to me. That's not true. We see him, every time I see him, I think about that. He is being heard, definitely, all over. He won a Nobel Peace Prize several years ago. So let's not believe in that mistake, that our mind will tell us sometimes that if we're kind, we may not be heard or respected. That's not true. If we choose to be kind, and if we do that with energy, with faith, believing in what we're doing, if we do it with constancy, we will be heard. So that's it. Then the passage goes on and it says, to have milk and honey flowing from your lips is not enough. Your heart has to correspond with the feelings that you express. Otherwise, we're being hypocrites, and it's true. So it doesn't really matter if we have milk and honey flowing. If it's not here, it's not true and it's not benevolence. And then the last thing he says in the passage is that it is possible to deceive people but not God. So this is what I found at the gospel. So again, real benevolence is the fruit of love. I see benevolence as love in action, because we have love here, but if we don't do something, we don't put that love in action. So every time we choose to smile to someone, or say a nice word, a benevolent word, we're putting our love in action. We're expressing it. It's a tool given to us by God to express love and make it more concrete. It has to be authentic and genuine and congruent with our hearts. So, last year, I went to a conference here in Austin about personal development. It was really great conference. And there were wonderful speakers there. Dr. Brian Weiss was there, Dr. Wayne Dyer was there. And then there was this young guy who was there too. He was speaking, and he was speaking about kindness. So we did see that kindness is an expression of benevolence a little while ago. So he was speaking about kindness, and he was speaking about kindness as a guiding principle in his life, or kindness as a lifestyle. And he did talk about these things. He said, kindness is not niceness. You may be nice, but you're not being kind. So he talked about those things too. So, and he also talked about the life-changing power of kindness when we use that as a guiding principle in our lives. So, and he was talking about this book that he wrote. The name of the book is this. It's a question. Am I being kind? He was talking about his book. And I was very inspired about, with his words, and it was really wonderful. I was inspired by them, and I felt like reading the book. And then he finished his talk, and he said he would, just give one of the copies of the book to someone in the audience. There were lots of people, a lot. But I was sitting in the first row, and he threw the book, and I read the book. I read the book, and I read again to prepare for this talk. And after I read his book, I was even more touched by his story and his message. I was really touched by his story. So, he started his book talking about his childhood and his years as a young man. And he will tell us about, terrible cycle of violence, cruelty in his family. It started with his grandfather. His grandfather was an alcoholic. He was very, very aggressive. He was, he was sick. He was so aggressive. He was sick. And, his father was raised by his men. So his father grew up to be a very aggressive man as well. And the author of the book, his name is Michael Chase, will tell us the way he was treated by his father since he was a little boy. There was a lot of physical abuse and cruelty, that his father would do. He would treat him badly, very bad, very bad. And also his mom. So he grew up with that trauma, right? And then he tells us that as a young man, he was never able to succeed in any area of your life. Career-wise or relationships, he was never able. He just carried that, thing that was too heavy for him. And then he got married, he got divorced, and he lost custody of his son. His son was someone that he loved very much. And he was succeeding in not repeating what his father did to him. He was kind to his son, but he lost custody of his son. Everything was going pretty bad with his life. And then there is this point in the book in which he stated, I hated my life, I hated my father, I hated myself. It was pretty bad. So there was this day, he came to he thought, I'm going to end my life. He came to that conclusion. He decided that he would end his life. And he went ahead with the plan, and he thought about his son, but then he thought, well, he's going to be better off without me anyways. He hated himself so much that he thought his son would be better off without him. So he had a plan. I think he was 24 years old. It was a Halloween night. He dressed up, black clothing, and he tells us in detail. He did some fake bruises in his face, and he got a toy gun and put the toy gun in his pants. And he decided to go to a bar first, and then go back to his home and commit suicide. That's what his plan was. So he went to the bar, he was there, and then he left the bar. He decided to walk a little bit, in the neighborhood. As he was walking, something started to happen. It was an argument and then a fight. People started to get agitated, and someone saw his gun. It was like a real gun. It was a toy gun, but pretty much like a real gun. Someone saw his gun, and someone started saying, that guy has a gun, that guy has a gun, and then someone else said it, that guy has a gun, and then a cop came. Then when the cop came in, everybody was like, that guy has a gun, and then the cop grabbed him. He grabbed him, and he tells us the story in the book. He didn't tell in the lecture, in the conference. So the cop grabs him, and the cop says, put the gun down. Put the gun down. And then this man, Michael Chase, was in shock. He was like, this is not even a real gun. He was like, oh my God. And then the cop put the gun down. And he was in shock. He didn't really say anything. He was just, and then he kept on telling the story. He said that the cop tells him in a very nice, soft, kind voice. He tells him, son, put your gun down. And again the cop says, son, and he keeps using the word son. Son, please put your gun down. Nobody needs to get hurt. And then, as he was listening to this man, all of a sudden, he thinks, do I know this man? Does he know me? This man is kind. He's being kind to me. So he really felt compassion, kindness and benevolence coming from this cop, towards him, this benevolence. And then he said, yeah, he cares about me. This guy cares about me. And then he started to have another kind of thinking. He started to think, my goodness, what if this guy shoots me? He's going to live with that forever. What a horrible situation I'm putting this person in. That's horrible. I cannot do this to this guy. So what is going on with him? Benevolence. He starts to feel benevolence towards this cop. And then the next thing that comes to him, what if he has a son? And then when he thinks about that, his son comes to his mind. And then he thinks, what if he has a wife? Then when he thinks that, his mom comes to his mind. And then at that moment when his mom comes to his mind, he remembers when he was a little boy, because his mother suffered abuse too, of course. He remembers when he was a little boy, after one of the outbursts of anger that his father used to have, he told his mom, I promise you that I am going to break the cycle of violence, depression, and alcoholism in our family. I'm going to do that. So at that moment, he remembers that promise. When he remembers that, he let the gun down. He let it, he didn't even say that it was not real. No, he just let it go. And the cop grabbed the gun, and he said that he didn't even think about jail time or what people would think about him or about clarifying that it was not a toy gun. It was just like a shift in his mind, in his feelings, everything. He said that he had a very intense feeling of peacefulness. And it was as if he was receiving a gift of a second choice at that moment. So he made that second choice. So that I was so touched by his story in the book. And then we see that in the story, what really happened was an authentic exchange of benevolence. Started with the cop, and then it was him. And that saved him from, suicide, and just doing that with his life and his son's life and everything. And from that point on, he started to make big changes in his life. Of course, there were lots of events that propelled him to make those changes, but the decisive moment for him to start to change was that exchange with the cop. So I thought that story was beautiful. And then he became prosperous with a photography career, very prosperous. He got married again, and he got his son back. And then later on, and if you read the book, you see that other stuff will happen. He decided to create this organization that is called the Kindness Center. And now what this guy does, it's really, he lives kindness. He left his career behind, the photography career, and that's what he does now. He has this organization, and he goes all around traveling and speaking about, his book and about kindness and about the organization, and he's very much engaged into charity. I thought about Andre and the talk that you had about charity. So that's his life now. That's how he lives. That's why he says adopting kindness as a guiding principle in my life, and just observing the life-changing power of kindness. It's really, he took that in, So in his book, he teaches us that in choosing kindness as a guiding principle in our lives, we may be faced with some choices, some very important choices. And the first choice that we may be faced with is the choice to be responsible or to be a victim. Yes. The first choice is to be responsible or to be a victim. And then, I was reading a book. This is another book I was reading, and I connected with this. I was reading a book about the Native American culture and wisdom, and it's such a wonderful book. And there is one point in the book when they talk about the meaning of the word responsibility. So for the Native American, responsibility means the capacity to react. And that's it. Because when we choose to be responsible, we're choosing to react. It doesn't matter what happens, we will react. So that's what we do when we choose to be responsible. When we choose to be responsible for our life and our happiness and our actions, our thoughts, we're choosing to react. No matter what life throws on to us, we'll react. So that's, I thought that was very interesting to see that word on that light, choosing to react, right? And, that the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, a long time ago, said something that I thought it's so wonderful. He said that it does not matter what people did to you. What matters is what you're going to do with what people did to you. So it doesn't matter. So you see what this man did with what people did to him. He's just choosing the very opposite path that his father chose. That as you go along with the book, and his father, he re-established a good relationship with his father after, therapy, and his father went to therapy too. And his father committed suicide in the book. But then when it was just at that moment when his father committed suicide, because his father was not really able to deal with the amount of cruelty and pain. It was too much. His grandfather, he tells us that once his grandfather tried to set fire in his house and to shoot all his kids. One of his kids was his father. So his father ended up doing that. But when that happened, it was really the turning point for him. He said, okay, I'm going to leave my photography career behind. He was already making the changes. And I'm going to create this thing, the Kindness Center. The amount of pain was so severe because he reestablished the relationship with the father, that he felt that he needed to do something extreme in order to keep moving forwards. And he founded the Kindness Center. And if you Google him, you see that he's doing great things, So yeah, he chose to react, and he chose to do something productive and wonderful with what people did to him. So this is choosing to be responsible. And then when we go to this question here, am I being kind when I choose to be a victim? Am I being kind to myself and others when I choose to be a victim? Or I'm being kind to myself and others when I choose to be responsible? So this is the first choice that he talks about. So the first one here would be responsibility then. The second choice that he talks about, it's forgiveness. Forgiveness. Versus resentment. Okay, this is a big one too. This is a big one. So he says, if you're choosing to lead a life of kindness, you're going to be faced with that. Are you going to choose to forgive, or you're going to choose to hold on to the resentment? Well, I believe that when we choose to forgive, when we choose to be responsible, when we choose to be responsible, forgiveness may follow. Because when we're choosing to react, we're choosing to let, the other person who did whatever she did or he did, to let that person free and to let ourselves free and to move on with our lives. When we're choosing to react, yes, the pain will be there, but you're letting yourself free and you're letting the other free. I was seeing this show on TV the other day. This lady, her face, she had scars all over. She got married with this man, she was in love with him, Then she starts to succeed in her career. And then the man tries to kill her. And he cuts her face and everything. Doctors told her that she wouldn't really heal that well. She said she would heal. So this woman, she healed. She was healed. And I saw her on TV. It was the judge, the court thing that they do. And the guy was there. The guy who tried to kill her was sitting there. And it was so nice. It was so beautiful to see her. She said, I choose you to forgive. I want you to forgive. You tried to kill me, but I am forgiving you now. Mostly because of my own well-being, because I want to be free. And then when she says that, I said, yes, that's forgiveness. It's about the other, yes, of course, but first it's about ourselves. It's letting yourself free. It's empowering yourself. When you're not a victim anymore, you gain power. So the second choice here is, am I going to forgive, or I'm going to hold on to that resentment? And then the second choice is forgiveness. We're assuming that we'll choose these, right? Yes. So, and it is especially difficult to forgive when there is so much pain involved, like psychological pain, physical pain, when there's pain, it's difficult to forgive. And we're going to talk more about this. You know, as I get to the end of the talk, I'll talk more about this. You know, forgiveness, pain, and how can we forgive. There is a saying, the Buddha has a saying that it's very interesting, very good. He says that holding on to anger or resentment in this case, it's like grasping hot coal with the intent to throwing it back at the person. But we are the ones who burn our hands. So that's it, right? So this is the second choice here. So the third choice that he talks about when we choose a life of kindness is wellness versus abuse. Abuse. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. I love chocolate cake. I love it. On Sunday there was this lady who brought me some chocolate cake. It was just like made from scratch. It was just like Brazilian chocolate cake. It was just like, okay. So I have a first piece of chocolate cake. It's good. It brings about wellness to my mind. And women know how what the power of chocolate. So it brings wellness to my mind and to my body. It's so good. Then I go for the second piece of chocolate. I do so. Later on, like maybe 12 a.m. I was writing about this, and then I go for the third piece of chocolate. And then because I was writing about this, I said, okay, right now is abuse. It's not really wellness. It's not good. This is not good. I'm not being good to my body. I'm not being good to my mind. I'm going to be cranky tomorrow. I'm going to be guilty. I'm going to stop. So this is the third choice. Are we choosing wellness or abuse in our lives? And there is this example with the chocolate cake. But it goes, a long way here. It's with food, with work, with our minds, with relationships, with everything, with our spirit. So how are we treating ourselves and others? How are we treating our bodies, our minds, our relationships? How are we at work? Are we well when it comes to work, or we abuse? And we go home very late at night, very tired. And the kid wants to play, and you're like, I can't play with you. It's too much work. Is that wellness or abuse? Are you treating yourself, are we treating ourselves well and our kids well when we abuse work? And then with our minds. I wish Evelyn was here. She's not here. Because I have been trying to meditate for I don't know how long. And I don't, it's difficult, But meditation is a great thing that we do for our minds, because sometimes we abuse our minds. There is so much that goes on in our minds, and sometimes it's so bad. It's negative, and we don't stop to clear our minds. So with the meditation hour, I have been, okay, even if I sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and it's wonderful because it does help. It clears your mind. It seems like you're able to see things more in a more balanced way. So are we treating our minds well, or are we abusing our minds? Our spirit too. And then it goes on and on. There is a book by Leon Denis, and it's a great book. It's Potentials of the Soul. He tells us in that book that when we quiet our thoughts, our inner voice, we may be able to hear God's voice. So this is meditation, right? And then there's another book. It's a very good book too. It's called Conscious Being by Joana de Angelis, channeled by Divaldo Franco. And she discusses about self-love. This is a good thing. Because a lot of times we may think that self-love it's being selfish. there is a difference between self-love and selfishness. And we need to learn to love ourselves. Because sometimes we may tell ourselves, and that's a mistake, I believe it's a mistaken way of thinking too, that no, I'm too selfish if I do this for me, da, 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 da. But no, we need to allow time. We need to take good care of ourselves. We need to practice self-love that she talks about in this book, and it's great. She tells us that it's not about being egocentric or about engaging in egotistical behavior. It's not that. It's really taking good care of yourself with the intent to gain inner balance and to grow emotionally and psychologically. It's about inner transformation too. Because when we take good care of ourselves, we grow. So it's very important. And you know, after I became a mother, I learned that very much so, because I see if I don't take good care of myself, my daughter will pay the price. My husband was the one who was like, you're not thinking right. Because I was like, it's her first. I need to feed. No, you need to feed yourself first. You're not thinking right. No, it's her. She needs to sleep. You need to sleep. So if you become a mother and you learn, if you're not well, nobody else is well. So it's like this. It starts, and Jesus said that. He said, love God above all, and your neighbors is to love yourself. So it starts here, right? Let me see. It starts here with the individual. It starts here. The self, the wellness, the self-love, the self-care. It starts here. I think if we're able to be compassionate towards ourselves, and if we treat ourselves right, it may be easier for us to treat our families right. And this is one of the things that was, in the gospel, and I forgot to mention. There is this phrase in the gospel that says, and then there are the people who are very benevolent outside, and they are tyrants at home. So yeah, this is one very important thing to think about, because I believe that benevolence starts here. It starts at home. With our kids, with our animals. It starts here with me, and then it goes, it just extends. So, yeah, if we're good to ourselves, we may, express that to our families as well. And if we're benevolent to our families, everybody there will spread that benevolence wherever they go. When your daughter goes to school, she may be kind there. When your husband goes to work, she may be kind there. So school, work, community, wherever you go. So it starts here, and you spread it, So, and that's going to help society. There is one agent of change at school, and one at work, one at the church, one there. So society is being helped, and it's becoming a more benevolent society. And a more benevolent society will help our earth, our planet, right? That change that is happening, that needs to happen. So the third choice is wellness. So we ask ourselves, am I being kind to myself and others when I abuse or when I am well? So we ask that. Then the fourth choice, and this is one that I love, is, let me put the fourth choice here, is dream or settle. Dream or settle. This is one good question, choice. Are we living our dreams in any way? When we think about this, are we living our dreams, or are we settling? Life is so demanding that oftentimes we will orient our lives and our actions and our careers and everything else towards financial stability. We need to do that. That's life. Yeah, we need to do that. But what about our dreams? What about our soul calling? You know, I think our souls have a calling. You know, I think we all have a passion or a dream or something that we like to do. What about that? I know we need to pay attention to the financial stability and all of that, but we pay little attention to our dreams sometimes. So this is the fourth choice that we may be faced with. Are we dreaming or are we settling? And the same book that I talked about previously, The Potentials of the Soul by Leon Denis, you know, there's something that is so beautiful there that he wrote. This is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read, The Potentials of the Soul by Leon Denis, and it was read in the book club here. I couldn't come to the book club, but I read the book and it's wonderful. He tells us this: never cease to turn your thoughts to this truth. You may become anything you wish. Learn to wish to be greater and better all the time. Learn to wish to be greater and better all the time. This is a notion of eternal progress and the means to achieve it. This is the secret of your mental strength, from which radiates all other magnetic and physical forces. Never cease to turn your thoughts to this truth. We may become anything we wish. Yeah, we can. We can. We forget. And then, last week, I turned on the TV and I learned that Maya Angelou passed away. She was this wonderful poet and writer and civil rights activist, this great woman. And I was like, wow. She experienced racism as she was growing up. She experienced segregation. She was raped. She struggled with financial hardship. She had a difficult life, but she didn't settle. That woman didn't settle. She went after her dreams. She fulfilled her dreams, and in the process, she inspired and encouraged so many others to fulfill their dreams as well. She wrote a poem that is so beautiful. It's called Still I Rise. I'm going to tell you 2 fragments. It's so beautiful. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I will rise. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides. Just like hopes springing up high, still I will rise. And she did. And she brought about change. She did. She didn't settle. So this is the 4th choice that we're faced when we choose to live a life of kindness. Are we going to dream or are we going to settle? Are we being kind when we choose to dream or when we choose to settle? You know, I believe that we all have something to give. Let's not sabotage ourselves. We all have that, I believe so. So, we can do good things too. We can serve. So, dream. This is the 4th choice here, dream. The 5th choice is purpose or lack of meaning. Purpose or lack of meaning. As I was saying, you know, he tells, Michael Chase, who tells us in the book, are we going to choose to have a life of purpose or a life without meaning? I believe that we all have something to do here. All of us have something to do here. And as we go after our dreams and what we like to do and ways in which we can serve, we may find out what is our purpose. He tells us in the book that he believes that we all have the same purpose, which is to serve, to be of service, to bring change, to bring joy to the life of others. I agree. I think we all can do that. We cannot let our inner critic let us believe that we're not able to help or that we're not able to serve. We cannot do that. We're all able to help. We're all able to serve. We're all able to make a positive contribution. And I believe that's why we're here on earth. You know, Mother Teresa, she said, in this life we cannot do great things. We can only do small things with great love. So it doesn't matter what we do, great things, little things, you know. Let's do everything with great love. Let's spread that, you know, let's be benevolent. So there is a little story, I think it's nice. Once there was a man whose duty was to carry water to his king. So every morning he would get 2 pots of water and put them on a pole, each pot in one pole. One pot was perfect, and the other pot was cracked. Okay, so every day in the morning he would go up the hill to deliver the water to his king. And then every single day, the perfect pot would tell, I am so proud of myself. I did such a great job. I delivered the exact amount of water that I was supposed to. It was a perfect pot. And then one day, the cracked pot said, I am so ashamed and so embarrassed and so unhappy with myself. I can never deliver the right amount of water that I am supposed to. And then the man who was very benevolent looked to the cracked pot and said, listen, do you like flowers? And then the cracked pot, yes, I do. Okay, tomorrow when we go up the hill, as we go up the hill, I want you to look at the flowers. I said, okay. So next morning they went up the hill and the cracked pot looked at the flowers. He said, yeah, these are beautiful flowers. But he seems to be a little down still. And the man who was very benevolent said, you know what? I have been spreading seeds here on this side of the path because I know of your crack. And I knew they would need the water that is spilling out of you, you know, to grow. So they're there because of you. You did it. And the cracked pot, yes, I did it. That's it. Sometimes we stop because of our imperfections. And we all have imperfections. We all have flaws. You know, it doesn't matter. We all can do something. And I thought about your talk again when you talked about charity. We all can do something. Let's do it, right? So, are we being kind to others and to ourselves when we choose a life of purpose or when we choose a life without meaning? And this is the 5th choice here. It's purpose. Having a life of purpose. This is the 5th choice. So yeah. So when we choose to have a life of kindness, a life that is guided by that principle, we choose to be responsible, we choose to forgive, we choose wellness, we choose to connect with our dreams and with our life purpose. We choose to have kind thoughts, kind words, and kind actions. We talk so much about positive thinking. sometimes it gets on my nerves, you know. It's like, oh, we need to think positive. We need to think. I said, okay, but how am I going to think positive right now? Yes, let's reframe your thinking. So I thought it was so nice when he said in the book, what if we think about thinking kind thoughts versus unkind thoughts? So asking yourself, is this a kind thought? No, so let me reframe it. I thought that was a good one. So now, if it's, like a negative thought, because all that word, negative, and when it's a negative thought, I may see it as an unkind thought, and reframe it and transform it in a kind thought. So benevolence is the vehicle for delivering unconditional love. And then there is time still. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. And then he talks about the elements of a benevolent heart. Attentiveness. There are many. Yes, this is one. And I think the good thing about this book is it's so specific, because we come with this idea, let's be benevolent, let's be kind. But how? What can we do? So he comes with this very specific things, and he would talk about elements of a benevolent heart. First one is attentiveness. Do we really listen to people when they talk to us? Yeah?
What?
Think about that.
Listen to people.
What?
Do we really listen to people when they talk to us? Or do we listen to our inner dialogue? The person is like, I had a hard day yesterday. I had to go to HEB. I had to go to my daughter's school. I had to write. Oh yeah, you had a hard day. So are we listening to other people or to our inner dialogue? Listening, it's such a great gift. Sometimes all we have to do is just sit down and listen. But really, it's listening with our hearts, listening with our bodies. It's just sit down there and listen. So this is one of the elements of kindness. It's really listening. Authenticity, being genuine with our feelings. Like we go back to the gospel. It doesn't really matter if you have honey and milk coming out of your lips and your heart is not congruent with that. So being authentic with, your feelings. And then charity. I don't need to say anything about charity, because Andrés said it 3 weeks ago. And compassion and courage. Courage. It takes courage to be kind. It does. In a society that we live, one has to be brave to be kind. There is a mistaken belief that someone who is too kind, it's a little weak perhaps. No. Someone who is too kind, it's very strong. You have to be strong to face the craziness with kindness. So it takes a lot of courage. It's one of the elements of kindness. Gratitude, it's another. Inspiration. People who are kind, they want to encourage and inspire others. And that's what this guy did to me. He inspired me. That's what Maya Angelou did. Patience. This is a very important one here. Patience. So, a kind heart doesn't need to be right. It needs to be kind. When a patient heart waits to say something, and it doesn't need to be right. It needs to be kind. Imagine if in everything that we do, instead of asking ourselves, am I doing this right? We would ask ourselves, am I being kind? Imagine what a change that we would see. So yeah. All right. So these are the choices. Responsibility, forgiveness, wellness, dream, purpose, attentiveness, authenticity, charity, compassion, patience, gratitude. Yes. Let's do that. Right. Let's do that. What a challenge, right? Let's have patience when your daughter is throwing a tantrum because she wants the polka dot dress when it's freezing outside and she's about, to lie on the floor. Let's be patient at that moment. Let's be grateful when we face serious illness, life-threatening illness, or when we face the death of a loved one. Let's be grateful then. Let's go after our dreams when we need to pay the bills. Or let's forgive when we turn on the news and we learn about a shooting in a children's school. Wow. Sometimes it seems surreal. But wait. Or let's forgive when we go through so much pain like this guy went through, psychological, emotional. Let's forgive when we face pain. Wow, that seems crazy, impossible sometimes, surreal. But if we try to understand pain coming from a spiritual perspective, we may find out that it's not surreal, that it's not impossible. When we try to look at pain and we try to look at our trials and the illness and the death and the craziness from a spiritual point of view, it may not seem impossible to be kind anyways, at any circumstance, at all times. So again, going to that wonderful book, Potentials of the Soul by Leon Denis, he will talk about pain there, and I'm going to read to you in a little bit. And I want to bring him here in this fragment of the book, because when we see pain from that point of view, it may be easier to forgive. It may be easier to choose to be benevolent, no matter what we're going through. Always, in every circumstance. So, that's what he writes about pain, Leon Denis. He says that during our trials, if we were able to observe the work of pain in us, we would perceive it to provoke and develop our sensibility, our gentleness, our kindness, and affection. Laceration and tears bring up some unknown quality is still dormant within us, or even a new noble sentiment conquered forever, embellishing our soul and the soul of others. This is me saying. Therefore, behind pain, pay attention to this. Therefore, behind pain, there is someone invisible, directing its actions and regulating it according to each one's necessity. With art and infinite wisdom, someone is working to increase our inner beauty. This is a work never accomplished, always in progress, from light to light, from virtue to virtue, until we are transformed into celestial beings. So yeah, this is the inner work of pain. And there is this invisible force behind it, right? So it may seem surreal and impossible to deal with pain and the craziness of the world and to forgive when we forget this simple and basic truth that we, at all times, at every moment, every second, we are being embraced by the benevolence of God. Every time, always, at any moment, we are being surrounded, supported, and embraced by the benevolence of God. So yeah, it's constant benevolence, no matter what. It's really a matter of us opening our hearts to it or not, right? So yes, sometimes it is difficult to be kind, grateful, patient, and when it's difficult, let's ask for God's help. Let's ask for His help, because He's there. Let's ask for the help of the wise and benevolent spirits, because they're here with us, always. Then again, going to Leon Denis, he will say, this is so beautiful. At least for me, it brings about a wonderful, this wonderful certainty that I'm never alone. He says that everywhere in our paths, benevolent and powerful, invisible beings are walking by our side. And they are. We study the Spiritist doctrine. No, let me talk about me. I don't know about you all. I study the Spiritist doctrine. But sometimes I forget. A lot of times I feel lonely. You know, it's like, and then I'm like, hey, I am not alone. This is not true. The truth is something else. And that's it. We're never alone. And then he goes on, saying, let's open our souls to the benevolent whispers that come from above. The whispers that come from above. And then I think about Maya Angelou's poem, and I think, let's rise to listen to the benevolent whispers that come from above, because they're subtle, they're quiet, subtle, delicate. And if we're not aware, if we're not connected, and if we're not in tune with that, we may miss what they have been wanting to tell us. And what they want to tell us is that what they want to teach us and tell us, it's about love. And then we'll learn to be benevolent to ourselves, benevolent to others. We'll become then an agent of our own progress and transformation, as well as instruments propelling the progress of our societies, our families, propelling the progress and transformation of our families, our societies, and our planet. Let's be kind.
Thank you.